Anyway, very exciting. Cohen's preview show is Saturday, so I'm excited to see how that goes.
So you started those?
They have, I think there's 3 contests though where we're gonna have to divide and conquer, which kind of stinks. So.
Did they ever do this?
Okay, it's a little bit after 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let's call the Johnson City Council meeting number 25-23 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Reddy.
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience this evening. If you are here for an item that is on the agenda, we'd ask for you to wait for that item to come up and address the council at that time. If you are here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we'll ask our library director tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Do we have any changes to the agenda, Mike?
Mayor, yes, we request that council remove item 5P, which is consider approval of the memorandum of understanding between City of Johnston, Iowa, and the Cork 50131 LLC.
Okay, repeat that. I did not get any of that.
Item 5P.
P, okay.
Oh,
As in Paul.
And what are we doing with it?
We're removing it from the agenda
Okay.
for tonight.
Okay.
We'll bring it back in a future meeting.
Okay. Any other changes? Any other changes, council? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Reddy.
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Anyone online, Cindy? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is to have a public hearing and first consideration of ordinances numbers 1152 and 1153, amending Chapter 155 Johnson Building Code and Chapter 159 Johnson Fire Code. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:07.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Adam Osford, Fire Marshal for the district, as well as the building official for Johnston. As stated, we are looking at updating our building code and our fire code from the 2021 editions to the 2024 editions of the International Fire Code and the International Building Code. Incrementally, the changes between editions are rather simple. Probably the biggest changes between editions that we'll see is how the code handles the production, storage, and manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries. It does not have a direct impact on the residential consumer. It doesn't look at electric vehicles and stuff of that nature. It's more for the large-scale warehouses, the manufacturing plants, and stuff of that nature. So that's probably the biggest change you'll see within the additions. Otherwise, we took a deep dive and we looked into our local amendments that we had on the books based on the 2021 versions. And we really worked to get back to the base code to eliminate the amendments that were either out of date, meaning they have been incorporated into the current edition or no longer needed by the community. So we worked very hard to try and get rid of a lot of those amendments. And what you'll see before you is, again, the two ordinances, the building code and the fire code. One thing to note is we did take this to the fire board and presented the changes to them, as well as the amendments and what the proposed codes would look like for the fire code. And it was unanimous approval to move forward with the adoption of the 2024 fire code. The last item that I'll put out there is the city of Grimes as well as the city of Johnston have made a very strong effort to make sure that we do have exactly the same fire code, and our building codes are very, very close. And they are on schedule. They have had their third readings for both their ordinances, building and fire. So they are on schedule to enforcement either late January or early February. With that, I know the code is amazing to me, probably not to you guys. I would answer any questions. Otherwise, I see it's a full agenda, so I would reserve your time.
Does council have any questions for Adam?
I do, Adam. Quick question. The proposed change that you're saying, and I'm looking at that reading up here, residential construction will be the increase in snow loading from 30 PSF to 33 PSF and the rest. Is that going forward, not retro, right?
Correct. So what that really relates to is the construction for engineered systems, roof trusses and stuff of that nature. So that when this first came out, this was something that all the building officials in the metro, we got together because seemingly it was a very big change to move from what we already had on the books of 30 PSF to potentially what we were faced with. We worked with the industry, worked with several engineers. At the end of the day, the net result is very, very small. They estimated that most currently existing constructed engineered structures wouldn't face changes under the new rule. It's more about how it's calculated. And what they did is they looked at, ASCE went back and did, I believe it was a 50-year study based on the actual amount of snow that we get in an area. And that's what we're seeing in the tables that they're now putting out. So while it did go up a little bit, we were already at 30. So the change from 30 to 33 was, in industry's eyes, very, very small. Didn't have much effect on the built community.
Any other questions for Adam? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:11. Do we have a motion to approve first consideration of ordinances numbers 1152 and 1153?
I move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. We removed item 5P. With that removal, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready.
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Moving on to item 6, I just bring to everyone's attention that we do have one report filed there. If you have an interest in what's discussed in that report, please take a look at that and direct any questions to Mike. Moving on to item 7, on consent agenda 7A, consider second consideration of ordinance number 1151, vacating a water main easement located in Century Trace Place, Plat 1, an official plat in the city of Johnson, Polk County, Iowa.
Hi, there's been no changes or no comments received.
Is there any questions for Matt? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1151?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a quick question for Matt. Would it make sense to consider waiving third reading as well?
Yes.
Forget where I was at.
So this is discussion, so we can go to,
We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart.
Yes.
Coe.
yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item
Mayor,
7B.
before we go to
Oh,
7B, I'd like to make a motion to waive third reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1151.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive third reading and to adopt and publish. Motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7B, consider second consideration of ordinance number 1154, official zoning map amendment to rezone .81 acres from R1 100 large lot residential district to C1 neighborhood commercial district with conditions.
We have had no comments and no changes.
Any questions, council? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1154?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I'm just reading, I just want to make sure, I'm looking at ordinance number 1154. The language that we added around alcohol and tobacco. Just where does that fit? Where does that appear now in the new revised ordinance?
It'll be right above the additional conditions. I can pull this up for you as well.
Oh, I see it now. In no case shall the sale of alcohol, tobacco, and vaping products be permitted. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that got, okay, perfect, thank you.
Any further discussion? Did we have a motion and second? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, consider approval of the third reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1149, an official zoning map amendment to rezone 1.486 acres from R4 High Density Mixed Residential District to M1 Light Industrial District.
Good evening. Staff has not received any additional comments and the application has stayed the same.
Does the council have any questions for Michael? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this item? If not, do we have a motion to approve third reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1149?
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider approval of third reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1150, an official zoning map amendment to rezone 1.816 acres from R4 High Density Mixed Residential District to M1 Light Industrial District.
Staff has not received any additional public comments and the application is still the same.
Council have any questions? Anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve third reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1150?
Move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7E, consider resolution number 25-286, authorizing delivery of a notice of exercise of special remedy and notice of event of default.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the council is aware, Lincoln Savings Bank filed a foreclosure action against Ignite Johnston LLC on November 7th of this year, which constitutes a event of default under Section 9.1E of the development agreement between the City of Johnston and Ignite Johnston LLC. In light of this foreclosure and the developer's failure to meet the required pre-development obligations, staff at this time is recommending that City Council approve a resolution authorizing the delivery of a notice exercise of special remedy and notice of event of default in order to preserve our rights going forward. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-286.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7F, consider resolution number 25-287, approving and authorizing execution and delivery of the third amended and restated agreement for the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority, WRA.
Sorry. Jump the gun. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Consenting to the issuance of bonds. Throwing me off. By the board of the WRA for the purpose of constructing improvements under the terms of said agreement and related matters. You didn't take a picture and send it out to the.
No, I did not.
Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As council may be aware, Johnston has been a longstanding member of the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority, or WRA, actually back to 1979. That predates the WRA as the Des Moines Integrated Community Area. As a regional provider of wastewater conveyance, currently they serve 18 member communities. The current WRA agreement was last amended in 2014. And really, there's a number of areas that need to be updated, including modernizing the governance structure, financial provisions, long-range planning for the WRA, and capital programming for it over the next several decades. This has been a long-term effort that's had a number of parties over about a 5-year period, including legal counsel, outside counsel, financial advisor, municipal representation from the various members, and WRA staff. And so now before you is the third amended restated 28E-28F agreement, which was approved by the WRA Board of Directors last week and is being submitted now to all the member agencies for consideration. Some key items to note that this updates, first of all, is related to the capital programming update. This incorporates long-range capital programming through 2040 that includes more than $1.21 billion in planned improvements for the WRA. It also increases the outstanding debt limit from $675 million to $975 million to do those projects. Governance is updated. Currently, representation allows 1 per 25,000 in population with an unlimited cap. This updates it to 1 to 65,000 in population with a maximum of 3 per entity. Also transitions the weighted vote from a population-based to a flow-based to allow or to align more to the voting power with the system use. Also creates an associated community member in a non-voting capacity. So as potential growth in the future, they can have some planning process or planning ability in there. And additionally, the Finance Committee, which Sarah represents the City of Johnston on, becomes a standing committee with 1 representation per community. Additionally, it strengthens the WRA director role, clarifies the independence of the WRA director, establishes a conflict resolution process, in particular with the WRA director being an employee of the City of Des Moines, provides that protection so that the WRA board can be, and the WRA itself can be served correctly. Also authorizes the creation of a deputy director position. Financial oversights, it updates some languages to reflect current practices. So some of the practices that are outlined in the WRA 28E, 28F are now being followed, defines core expansion of special projects. And I think in particular with the special projects, I'll talk about a little bit, but it does align really the distribution and transmission system to who's receiving the benefit in those costs, and revises a weighted flow model beginning in July 1 of 2038. It also really does outline all the new long-range planning document. If you look at the 2080, the long-range plan and all the different additions to that are outlined, and it includes about 100-page alone in the 2080. The impact on the City of Johnston, our participation will continue with our voting rights and our cost responsibility based on a flow-based allocation. Additionally, our representation will remain unchanged. Obviously, we're right now currently under 25,000, going to the 65,000. We would not have that additional vote. But other communities that have went over that threshold, like Waukee, for example, they have not sought another chair. So there is some precedence in that regard. The new agreement also introduces this special project category. There's a number of special projects that are included, and these are really projects that benefit 1 to 4 members of the WRA and provides a cost allocation back to those members. One project that we will be specifically allocated cost towards will be the WRA Beaver Creek Interceptor Improvement. That is designated as a special project and is a $13.5 million project. Now, because of the number of members, it's going to benefit 4 communities. 50% of that project will actually be benefited as a core project, so all member agencies will be paying into that. The remaining 50% will be allocated towards the benefiting communities based on flow. So Johnston's portion will be 24%. So once you take away 50% and then 24%, our overall cost will be $1.6 million in that. And it really is if you think about all the other special projects and how they're working, it is a really effective way to really get growth, to pay for growth. And as other metro communities grow faster, Johnston and other non-growing cities are not saddled with that debt. Financial considerations, again, our overall budget allocation will continue based on flow, as we've noted. Future debt service and capital improvements will impact our overall debt limit within there in our allocation. There are no immediate changes that this will have to our rates. We're not going to have to adopt a new rate tomorrow based on this. However, the long-range plan will require adjustments to our sewer rates over the long run. I know we've had that discussion with PFM and Matt Stovall over that, but our current rate of $7.72 will remain unchanged. And this WRA work in part is informing our overall rates that we have, and it will be part of the rate increases that we're working on as staff that will begin in 2028. So that's a high-level overview. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed 28E, 28F, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-287?
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7G, consider approval of claims in the amount of $6,126,276.93.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. City administrator comments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just one update from our last council meeting. We had a Mr. Steve Kraber that came and addressed the council during open public communications. His request was that the city provide a 6-month extension to his request for compliance. Staff has granted that, so we just wanted to relay that for your benefit and the public's benefit. Thank you. I think there's some other comments that we have from other staff.
Staff, anything else?
Actually just popping up now, so from Janet.
Hello, I wanted to update you guys on the Holidays at the Town Center event on Saturday. It'll be from 4 to 6 p.m. And I know we received some accumulation of some significant snow over the last weekend, but that won't affect our event. We're actually going to be closing off the roadway right there in front of the concession stand. So that's where our food truck will be. All the tents will be set up there. And then we will be taking care of the hot chocolate over there and the skate rental or the ice skates that will be handed out to the attendees. So Parks will not clear the yard area from the snow. So it won't, I mean, people kids will probably play in it anyways, but that shouldn't affect the event at all. This year we do have a bigger carriage that will be taking people around. It'll load up on the north side of the building. We will still be having our tree lighting event. Santa will be there with his 2 reindeer. The unaccompanied minors will be there as well. And then the free skating. One unique thing this year, we had last year some of the skating when the people, our event ended at 6 o'clock. Then we were telling people they had to rent their skates. We've been working with the Cork and Josh as well to coordinate that. So the free skating will happen until 8 p.m. So we don't have to worry about telling people they have to pay $5 to come and skate if they show up 10 minutes before the event ends. So thanks to those council members and the mayor who volunteered to hand out chocolate for that event too. You guys should all have calendar invites. So thank you so much for that. So we can't wait for the great event, and Santa will be there at 4 o'clock.
Well, thank you, Janet, for that update. I was a little concerned earlier today, and I raised the question that we had planned to put things in the yard, but apparently we can set up and do everything that we need to do without using that space.
Yeah, blocking the roadway off will ensure. And last year we had the carriage ride go through that area, but this year we're going to completely block it off, and they're going to actually take 63rd Place around and then come through that north side right on by City Hall. So it won't affect the pedestrians or the traffic at all. So we got it all taken care of.
Perfect. And we'll have 80-degree weather, right?
Well, if you checked, it's going to be 32. But you know what? Our ice sculptors, that will not melt. So that'll be good.
32 with no wind is tolerable.
Yeah, 32 with wind is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and, Chief, do you want to finish your work session item?
Sure. The last piece, I guess, just rewinding the first piece as far as the HEAL language and the Leash City. I'm just going to add that additional HEAL language in that defines it into the code better. I think that's, the other thing is really a marketing program decision that we can see how that rolls out. But the other question was, I'm going to ask you to rewind a little bit in time here. We've had various times throughout the course where we've had a dog bite, and with the dog bite there may be a declaration of dangerous or potentially dangerous that is put into the process for the betterment of the safety of the community. With that, there's a process in which the police department investigates that. Ultimately, the police chief is responsible for making a ruling on whether or not a declaration should exist for dangerous or potentially dangerous. That's all defined within code. And then if there's a pet owner that disagrees with the declaration, there's an appeal process that goes to the city administrator. And if the pet owner still doesn't agree, the way it's currently in our code is that then it comes before the city council for a second layer of that appeal process. Going back 5 or so years, we got involved in some litigation with one of those decisions. And in looking at other communities and how they do this, and speaking with Maria, one of our city attorneys, there's probably a better process in which we can go that doesn't create as much exposure for the council in some of those decision-making pieces, at least on the front end of this process. And what I mean by that is ultimately when we get into this second layer of appeal, there's a lot of confusion because typically the pet owner will hire an attorney. An attorney will want this to be a regular hearing of some sort, and working in that confine of what they're used to in a court of law. So we end up having to have attorneys representing the police department, attorneys representing the city council, and then ultimately if they don't agree with the council, they can still file that writ of certiorari to take it to district court. So what the recommendation is, there's really kind of 3 different options that we could explore potentially in lieu of bringing that second appeal to the council. Looking at it from a civil process, trying to create a comparison to currently the way we work in the police department. If you have, we have traffic court every single month. We have a magistrate court. And with that, in the same sense that if you want to appeal a parking ticket or if you want to appeal a traffic citation, we can go to magistrate court for that appeal process. That's still a formal court process. It offers due process, but it gives a different option as far as trying to appeal and mitigate and mediate this stuff at the lowest level instead of jumping into a civil litigation action. If you're uncomfortable with that, there are communities that use administrative law judges through the Department of Inspections, Appeals, and Licensing. With that, essentially, the administrative law judge would manage that appeal process. And then at the end of that, it could come before the city council for final approval and to receive and record that administrative law judge decision. The third option that communities do is they go straight to that writ of certiorari in district court, which is that lawsuit, the civil litigation side of things. So the recommendation is that we trim out that additional appeal to the city council on the front end, and we put it into an actual due process proceeding of one of these three variables. So I wanted to get your feedback on that. It provides you a layer of protection to some degree as far as being named in civil litigation up front, as opposed to just being the deciding factor that administers the process as a whole, saying that due process is happening in the courts or through an administrative law judge that you're ultimately accepting that decision as reasonable and that due process has occurred. So is there any preference or ideology in how you see that?
Well, I thought it was very interesting, the one case we had. It was, kind of amusing, but I appreciate since I have no experience in law, police enforcement, I was definitely like a fish out of water, so I would appreciate, and I think anybody else that came in front of me would probably appreciate someone with some more background in that, serving as the judge. So either of your first two options would be preferable to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with the idea of modifying the current system in which you have in essence, there's the first appeal to the city administrator and the second appeal to the council. I don't have a problem with eliminating one of those steps. But one reason I do like retaining the council process is I like kind of the concept of you can take it to kind of a jury of your peers type concept. Now, granted, you still have the ability to do that in district court, but those aren't necessarily Johnston residents. So I believe that if, to me, the current process where you appealed, the police chief can make an appeal to the police chief, and then you can make an appeal to the city administrator, is kind of redundant because they're both city staff. And so my initial reaction is I like the council part of it. I hadn't really contemplated some of those other options that you were suggested, the magistrate traffic court kind of option. Although my sense is that that's going to result in them lawyering up just as much as you're going to see if they come to the council. So I'm not. My preference would be to keep the council element to it. I think that's just part of kind of the role of the council, is to provide that opportunity for residents to take their case to other Johnston residents to hear the decision and validate it. So I do have some belief that there's benefit in that. Yes, in that one situation we did have, they did decide to lawyer up, but I'm not sure that's going to always be the case in these dog bite cases.
Other thoughts, council?
My question, just so I get some familiarity, is those options that you proposed, Chief, especially option 1 and 2, what kind of time frame would the resident kind of face as far as before a determination, ultimately, if they got to keep their animal within the city?
That's difficult to answer. As far as if we're going through the magistrate system, we have one defined court date every single month. Our city attorneys work through that process of scheduling those hearings and those sorts of things, and it would be in conjunction with other traffic cases we have or parking ticket appeals, those kinds of things. Typically, I would say, depending on when it falls, you could look at probably around 6 weeks. Everything, when we go through the appeal process, the animal is held either in confinement or in quarantine of some kind until the resolution comes with that. So there's potential expense as far as that goes, depending upon the outcome as well. The administrative law judge, Christine, I don't know if I'd hate to put you on the spot, but I'm not sure as far as a timing perspective of how quickly something like that could be scheduled.
I don't think it would be as quick as, say, going to city council, for example. I mean, we would be subject to their schedule and when someone would be available. So it would probably be, I mean, I don't know that it would be the 6 weeks that like a court appearance would take, but I imagine it would be several weeks before we would have an ALJ who's available.
I pose that question. Thank you all very much for weighing in on that. And I realize I'm putting you on the spot by even asking that kind of time frame. But, ultimately, I feel like to some extent our residents want to be heard and want to be heard in a timely fashion. And so that's the hesitation I have with changing a portion of that ordinance is largely the expense, but also the time away from their pet. In that capacity before reaching some sort of determination in that capacity, if it's 6 weeks or even potentially longer. So.
I like the one or two idea.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I like the option 1 or option 2.
I like the option that you gave, Chief. I think the one you recommend, I think that's probably a good way to look at. So,
is there a way to? I still think that that your option 1 or 2 are the better choice, but I appreciate what Councilman Burkhart brought up about the costs of paying for the quarantine or housing of the dogs and the lack of companionship during that time. Is there any way we can, I don't know, figure out a way so it's not so dear to people that, they don't believe that they got served correctly and now they have to wait the 6 weeks or whatever it is to get a judgment and they're paying for their dog every day? Is there any way we can reduce those expenses?
Well, they can be greatly reduced depending upon the cooperation of the pet owner. If ideally, in most circumstances, we want to do a home quarantine where we're not having to put that animal at a veterinary clinic or at ARL or something along those lines. It comes down to the circumstances and the level of cooperation of the pet owner. And it really, quite honestly, there's probably a measure of threat to the public, to the environment, those kinds of things, the circumstances. So I'm probably giving you worst case scenario. Ideally, the pet's going to be able to stay in the home through the entire quarantine period, that we're going to be able to prove the vaccination elements, that they're going to abide by all of our restrictions and those sorts of things until that outcome's delivered. But it's going to be entirely dependent upon the circumstance.
And how do you feel about I think it was Councilman Cope who said that your review, and then the next step is the city administrator's review, that those were kind of redundant looks. Do you kind of think that one of those could be taken out of the process, or both are very important? And I'm just asking opinions. I mean, say what you feel.
Sure. Essentially, the process in which I go through to make the declaration, I'm interpreting what are our code requirements as far as the definition of what has gone on in that instance. How does that compare? Sometimes an animal might have had a previous incident too, or it was potentially dangerous. Now it's another bite. Sometimes these are complicated, that it might be between family members in the same home, but there still poses a threat. A lot of times it comes down to the level of responsibility of the pet owner. A lot of our bites are because of irresponsible owners. That's just the harsh reality of it. So I'm weighing all those things in basis with the code, trying to make a determination on what is the proper enforcement action. And so we deliver that enforcement action. And then within our code, we worked very hard for potentially dangerous and dangerous dogs, once they're declared, not to have that be an automatic removal. of that pet from the family, from the city, any of those things. There's steps forward that they can take for success to maintain their pet. But again, it comes down to the responsibility of the owner with some of that. So in the scope of making that declaration, then we have to give them that due process element we talked about earlier, because they have a property interest in the pet, that if they don't agree with that, and quite honestly, sometimes it's anecdotal, that you've labeled my pet and my pet is not a bad dog. Well, it bit somebody, and according to our code, it caused serious injury. So it's those emotions and those feelings that come into play a lot of times. And so that first layer of appeal with the city administrator, that really gives them a little bit of a disengagement period from the decision being made, and kind of trying to get out of the emotion of it to having a discussion about, here's what our code says, here's what the facts reported, here's the officers that are involved in the investigation, or community service officer. This is how we came to this decision. And sometimes there'll be other family members, other witnesses that are involved, but it's still a relatively informal process. And then,
not expensive to that person.
right, exactly.
They don't have to hire somebody.
Right,
And for the city, it's 2 staff people that are involved. So
Exactly.
what you're saying makes a lot of sense in that it gives a little bit of a basically cooling off period. And so it sounds like you support the 2 reviews at least.
Yeah, I think there's value with that.
Right, it's a low cost, and it could help out tremendously with lowering the amount of people that think they should go on with their case.
Sure, and I respect Councilman Cope's perspective on the role of the council, not just understand, from my perspective at least, based on we've only had this one time, but in that instance, it was extremely expensive, it was time consuming, and ultimately it requires a level of exposure of the council to render a decision. And with that, then it turned into litigation after that and those kinds of things. So we can continue doing what we're doing. It's just there's a pretty significant elevation once we get beyond. If they're going to take this to that final level of appeal, I think there's a strong likelihood that they will have an attorney and that they'll work through that. And I live in a world where you have to plan for the reality of that.
Is this common for other cities to do it the way you're suggesting?
It's a mix of both. The city of Waukee, for example, they just reconstructed their code where they're going straight from, they have basically the police department makes their decision, then it goes to the city administrator, who appoints a hearing officer, and then with that, after that decision, if they choose to appeal, then it goes straight to the writ of certiorari in district court. So there are communities looking at this just because we're seeing more and more advocacy involving litigation, and there's a lot of people, myself included, that pets are part of our family, and we're willing to invest some money in that.
So Chief, in Waukee, make sure I understand what you just said. The police chief makes a decision, it goes to the city administrator, and rather than having the city administrator review and make a decision, the city administrator appoints a hearing officer?
That's how their code's constructed. They just made this change, so I don't believe they've actually exercised the code yet. But it's an appointment.
Who do they appoint as a hearing officer?
I don't think they've done it yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
Are we making an assumption that hearing officer is someone already in the Waukee's police department?
I would assume it's outside of the police department.
Okay.
One word of context too that I think is important, and I believe so far since I've been here, we've had 3 either potentially dangerous dog or dangerous dog declarations that have made my table. And I believe only one of those has been elevated to the council. And I just went back and looked, we spent an hour and 15 minutes of council time on that. And so I also look at, if there's not that layer to help kind of buffer, and like Chief McDaniel said, give someone some pause to think about their case and just that decompression time, that could cause more things to come to the council. And I just think about your time and the value. So I think the process of at least trying to work with those individuals and have those conversations is also important for the council time management.
You know, I guess my thought, Chief, is, you know, I think there is value in the council reviewing these. And to the extent that it would give a resident some comfort that a jury of their peers is considering it, you know, I have some appreciation for that. I've kind of evolved from that position to we're not judges. I mean, we don't on a regular basis read the law, apply the law, understand the law, make decisions based on the law. So I don't know that that's an appropriate role for us in these particular situations. A magistrate does that on a daily basis. It seems to me, just based on this conversation tonight and my thinking tonight, is it makes sense to me that you know, that you make the first decision. It comes to the city administrator, and then if they want to appeal it, take it to a judge, somebody whose job it is to do this on a regular basis, who can, you know, understand the facts, apply the facts to the law, and make a decision. I think going the ALJ approach is not a good idea. My guess is it would be months before those decisions would be made. And I think that in these situations, pet owners want these decisions to be made in an efficient and expeditious way. Not too fast, but you know, they aren't going to want to wait months and months and months for a final decision to be made. Going straight to the writ of certiorari, I think that could be a lot more costly, and it would be probably cost prohibitive for a lot of people to do that. So I think the magistrate level is something that most people could afford and find acceptable. So I guess my thought is, you know, changing our process to have you be the first decision maker, city administrator the second, and then if they want to appeal it from there, take it to a magistrate. I don't know, Christine, how quickly, do you have an opinion on how quickly a magistrate could hear these matters and make a decision?
I mean, similar to an ALJ, I think we'll be at the mercy of the court schedule. I think we could get a hearing scheduled probably within the 6-week timeframe, like the chief mentioned. But again, getting a decision from a magistrate, sometimes we get prompt decisions, sometimes we get decisions from the bench, sometimes they're written orders, and it can take
So it could be
a month, 2 months. You just don't know.
About a month, 2 months, is that reasonable?
For a decision after the hearing? I mean, I would think so for something like this.
I think that seems timely enough.
Yeah.
This, you know, it wasn't until this case came up, which was during COVID, because I know it was all over Zoom, that I even realized we were part of that process. Is there anything else in a similar manner that the council would be called together to make a judgment that may overrule our city administrator and our chief of police? Is there any other process that comes to this level?
Well, the Board of Adjustment process, to a certain extent. I mean, we had the case overruling the zoning administrators.
Well, the result of that was pretty much we couldn't.
We as the council couldn't, but you had a board, the Board of Adjustment was sitting in that role, right? So I guess, and this is kind of the ultimate kind of opinion question, right? And I'm not going to die on a hill on it, but to me, I just think there's value in the people that you feel like you have an opportunity for it to be heard by people like yourselves, your other residents, and also, frankly, we'll make a quicker decision, and it sounds like a magistrate would make a decision. So, but you know, I think that is part of the role of the council, is to make challenging decisions. We do that quite regularly. And I think that's so, but that's just my personal opinion. It doesn't mean it's right. But that I would come down on, I think our process is satisfactory the way it is. And I like keeping the role of some sort of citizen review process, whether it's, obviously, we have that in other things with the Board of Adjustment. And to me, it comes to the council, and that's why I like that approach, so.
The Board of Adjustment is different than the council. I mean, they are quasi judicial. That is their job. They sit as judges in those cases.
But they're not professional. They're applying the law. They have the same ability to apply the law and same limitations in applying the law that we as council members have. I think that's pretty clear. I think we're very similar to the Board of Adjustment in that way. And frankly, we have a lot more experience making challenging decisions than Board of Adjustment members do. And again, that's just how I feel about it. That doesn't mean, that doesn't mean it shouldn't come forward. Others can feel differently about it, and I think probably do, and that's why we go through the process.
Well, this is not an item for a vote tonight, so where are we at in giving direction to the chief?
Did option 1, 2 get? Or do we have a clear option 1, option 2?
Chief, what again is your recommendation?
I guess if we're looking for either or, I would say keep it as it is or pursue the magistrate court route.
What's the council members' preferences?
I've only been on council and heard one case. I didn't have to endure the next step up as far as then district court litigation. So, frankly, I don't know that it's broken at this point.
Councilmember Martin.
I don't want to die on this hill either, but I'm going to lean toward the magistrate, adding the magistrate in.
Councilmember Cope.
I support maintaining the current process.
I'm having a difficult time hearing you, Suresh.
My bad. I had switched it off. Yes, at this point, I'm not exactly sure which option to go to, but do you have some kind of a material that I can read through, understand a little bit more before I make my decision?
I can send you a summary email of what I've said.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I'll wait.
Magistrate.
Okay. So I think we're undecided tonight in giving you direction. We'll give it some more thought and we'll come back and have this conversation another evening.
Thank you.
And what did we decide on the leash law?
I'm just going to make sure that we specify a better definition of healing, like not HEEL, healing. And then that provides cover based upon the guidance that we were given through the court process. And like I said, I think the leash city versus having some layer of discretion when it comes to that, I think that's more of a marketing component as we're discussing things a little bit more clearly.
Very good. Okay. Any other staff comments? City Council comments. Councilmember Evans.
I have nothing.
Ready?
Yes, I do. Recently, I was in several events this past month, and in one of the events, I believe it's the Diwali celebration event, regardless. So I was in a conversation with a young couple. The husband was from Iowa State, University of Iowa. He was a professor there, and the wife was a housemaker. Anyway, the conversation went on like this, and I mentioned that I was a city council member, and that lady, without any problem, saying, "Oh, Johnston, that's one of the best managed city in the country, in the state." I was surprised to hear that thing, and I was like, wow, that lady, that husband did not know, but obviously this lady is from Iowa City and she knows Johnston. And that speaks to well of all of us here, the city council, the staff, and everybody, how well we manage the city. I was really impressed with that. And continuing on the same line, I just want to appreciate that, how the city staff helps with this city as well, how to maintain the city well enough, to run well enough. Yesterday morning, I had a incident at my home where my backup sewer, you have a grinder out the yard, at the backyard, the grinder pushes because of the gravity, it takes all the sewage and pushes in the front. It has a motor running. It failed. We had to back up it, and I called the emergency number, and within about 30 minutes, someone showed up from the Public Works Department, and they fixed, the motor was burnt out, they fixed it. That speaks the efficiency of a city, how fast we actually react to all of these different situations. I really appreciate the staff, everybody that does that and make this happen. So thank you, guys. It was a really good start to the holidays too. Thank you.
Councilmember Cope.
I just want to thank the Public Works staff for their outstanding work with the snow event we had over the weekend. As usual, they were prompt and do an outstanding job, and something that we've come to expect, but should not fail to appreciate. It was, as always, a job well done.
Councilman Burkhart.
I was just trying to confirm this, and with our library director here, I can do so, but I also checked online. I serve as our Metro Waste Authority liaison, and Metro Waste Authority does some outstanding things in our neighborhood and our community to make sure that waste goes in the appropriate place. A couple of things real quickly. One of which is that they are collecting used toys, especially toys with batteries. They'd like to get those out of landfills and prevent fires, since they continue to have to face that threat very frequently in their recycling. The other thing is that 'tis the holiday season, and some of us have probably found some decorations, or more specifically, some lights that don't work from years past. And you can now, and this is why I was referencing the Johnston Public Library, you can drop off those unneeded, unused, and potentially unworking lights there. And that way they don't get wrapped up or bound up in their equipment. They certainly can go and be recycled in a much more efficient way. So I would encourage everybody to be mindful of putting your waste in the appropriate location, but certainly if you have holiday lights either before the holiday or even after the holiday, we have a drop-off at Johnston Public.
Yes, we have the holiday lights drop-off. We're also a battery drop-off for Metro Waste. So if there's those used batteries, things like that, that is also at the library to make it nice and convenient for our community members. They sit right inside our entryway and are well used. I think our holiday light ones jam-packed full right now.
Johnston, by the way, has routinely been a very strong contributor to lithium batteries as far as that goes, which makes me incredibly happy that we're doing the right thing whenever we can. So with that, I yield.
Councilwoman Martin.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mike, for the update on, is it Mr. Kerber and his issue? Sometimes I forget when people come to the city council meeting and we don't have any follow-up, and I forget to request it. So I really appreciate that, that you are doing that and following up on some of these requests we've had. So just keep it up.
I really need to pass it on to staff. I mean, staff took care of it and worked with them.
And some of them are going to be harder, like Vern Lyon came in a few weeks ago about making Crown Point a safe place. And I know that that had all different sorts of implications, and it was not quite clear what we were making it a safe place for. But sometime if we could follow up on that, I'd appreciate it.
And staff is working on that, and
Great.
you know,
Great.
so
that's all I have.
The only thing that I would add is a couple of weeks ago, since our last meeting, Jeff and a representative from the Department of Natural Resources were at Crown Point and did a real nice presentation on the coyote management plan. We had good turnout for that, lots of good questions, and I thought that went very well. So thank you for doing that. So, and with that, is there anything else to come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned.
Do you have a closed session now?
No.
Oh, good, because I was thinking there was a closed session.